Well, on behalf of the National Western Stock Show, I'd like to welcome you to the Catch It Calf program. A big welcome to those of you joining us through the webcast online at showbarnflix.com. Before we get started here with the show, we would like to introduce one of our committee chairmen of the Catch It Calf program. It is none other than Mr.
Thank you very much. Before we get started, I wanted to welcome everyone to the 90th Catch a Calf program here at the National Western Stock Show. It's a very historic year. This program started 90 years ago. Many people have gone through it who are in this room today, and we should all celebrate the fact that this program has lasted for so long and done so much for not only the stock show but for all of the participants over all these years. But this show is also very important in that it is the last Catch a Calf show that will be held in this beautiful historic stadium arena. This wonderful structure has hosted the stock show for well over 100 years, and next year we will be moving to the Sue Anschutz Rogers building in the yards. So please make sure that you all who are competing realize that you are making history in being in the 90th class and also the last to show in this wonderful structure. And I think as respect for this structure, we don't normally do this for structures, but let's give a round of applause for the stadium arena at the National Western. Thank you very much.
Once again, everybody, you are watching the National Western Stock Show's Catch It Calf program. This program started back in 1935. 10 calves were caught in the arena and taken home from the show to be finished for market. They returned to the show the following year to be placed on show ring appearance alone. After several years, rodeo calves were used as the actual calf catching at the stock show. The calves to be fed were supplied later in the spring. Over the years, many improvements have been made, making the program more practical, teaching members to produce market beef efficiently and to keep good records. The youth are responsible for feeding, care, and management of the calves from May until the show here at the National Western Stock Show today. During this time, each youth writes their sponsor monthly, informing them of the progress of their calf and other activities that they are involved in. A sponsor's role in supplying the funding for exhibitors' calf and giving them guidance throughout the project. A very close relationship develops between the youth and their sponsors as their year goes on, and often these youth even make lifelong connections with their sponsors. Many of the sponsors have been involved in the program for several years, and we would like to thank them and give them all a round of applause at this time for their continued support. Thank you to the Catch a Calf sponsors. Up first in the program is our showmanship. All Catch It Calf participants are automatically entered into the showmanship phase of this educational experience. Showmanship is a unique experience because it allows exhibitors to stand out with their animals' preparedness, knowledge of the industry, and competitive spirit. A well-prepared showman spends hours in the barn working with their animal, and today is a chance to showcase all of that effort. All showmanship classes were broken by age and will be showing oldest to youngest. Class winners will be given a belt buckle sponsored by the Stow-Whitwer family. Our showmanship judges today are Clint Sexton and Steve Williams. Clint Sexton is a graduate of CSU's Animal Sciences from the livestock judging team. He works for Select Sires Beef. His family includes his wife Darcy, his boys Chandler and Calvin, and they raise purebred Red Angus and Charolais seed stocks. Our other judge is Mr. Steve Williams. He's the owner of Midland Bull Test in Columbus, Montana. Steve attended Oklahoma State University with a major in animal science. He was a member of the meat judging team. He is passionate about producing agriculture and the cattle industry. The purpose of showmanship is to present the animal in a manner that these two judges will have a favorable impression on them. Showing properly is an important part of any beef project and an extremely rewarding experience. Showmanship not only generates enthusiasm and competition within the show ring, but also teaches other valuable lessons that can be applied to everyday life. These lessons include accepting responsibility, winning graciously, losing with dignity, and learning the amount of work and determination it takes to become a winner. In the ring at this time is class number 1 of our showmanship category. From Berthoud, Colorado, Shannon Ramey. From Julesburg, Colorado, Levi Reichman. From Big Springs, Nebraska, Caden Rhodes. From Byers, Colorado, Preston Schneider. From Glenwood Springs, Colorado, Bridger Bear. From Winona, Kansas, Grayson Collins. From Wellington, Colorado, Cade Schweitzer. From Castle Rock, Colorado, Bryson McKim. And from Berthoud, Colorado, Josie Smith. This completes your class number 1 of showmanship. While our judges continue to work through our first class of showmanship in the ring, I want to highlight some of National Western's sponsors. Common Spirit Health is the proud presenting partner of the National Western and the official first aid provider of the National Western Stock Show. Common Spirit Health is committed to unleashing the healing power of humanity through human kindness. You can learn more at mountain.commonspirit.org. And Sullivan Supply. Sullivan Supply is a family-owned and operated company founded in 1989. As the innovative leader in livestock show supplies, Sullivan Supply has kept the values of hard work, family ties, and quality products at its core. Sullivan Supply is a proud service to the livestock industry, and they wish all the exhibitors here at the National Western Stock Show the best of luck for 2025.
Well, good morning and welcome here to our Catch a Calf showmanship contest. And I would think Steve would echo my comments. Really a privilege and an honor to serve as your judges here with these young people. And as we visited with them, a couple words that I heard were relationships and gratitude and thankfulness. And those are all good things we love in this industry. And we work hard every day, and you can see the dedication and commitment in each one of these young people that they've done with this project. And we've just had the honor to spend a few minutes with them and make a split-hair decision, and that's what it is. Take this forward and be like the 90 other years that this has gone on. And go ahead and contribute to the beef industry is what I'd tell each one of them. This young man just separated himself from the time he walked in the ring. Really good timing. He got that calf out and moved him well. Calf's presented very well from the fitting and showing process. He's just real comfortable in being on the end of that lead and doesn't draw a lot of attention to himself. We just thought he was one of the real contenders when we started off. The young man beside him, he's got one put together as well in terms of the fitting, the work that he's done on the leg hair. Tail head, you can just tell he spent some time there making sure the presentation on this one just has that perfect fit for him to go forward and be competitive out here. Congratulations. He did just a real super job. And the young lady here in the green, I really enjoyed visiting with her. The first thing you notice is she smiled and she wanted to converse with me and hear what I had to ask her, and she did a nice job of communicating. She's just super relaxed, and that's one thing sometimes we forget to do in agriculture and even working with animals, to have that fortitude to be that team player and take one for the team in the case there's just a touch nervous out here. She does a super job, and we really appreciate our time with her. The young man that comes next does a super job as well. Thank you. That one, and these are Herefords, and he's got him as white as white. He's got him presented extremely well. Calf just a little more nervous to stand, a little, maybe not getting the total teamwork as some of your classmates that place above you, but here's one that's really involved and loves this project, and I see that in the way that he cares for setting that steer up, the way he's got him presented, and congratulations to him. The young man that comes next in the teal, he does a super job, and he just talked about a few of the adjustments, thank you, he made coming in here and how he's had maybe not total cooperation, but look at how he's handled that. He's adapted well. He's conversed. He has good speaking skills when I visited with him there in line, and he does a super job. Congratulations. As become the young lady in the black, again, just real meticulous about what she wants to happen with that steer, works with him trying to get him set right. He's maybe not quite as comfortable out here in his skin, but she does a super job of maintaining that composure and doing a job that she best can with the hand that she's dealt. And a good life lesson for all of us. We work through projects like this is take what you're given and do your best with it, and everybody will be rewarded at the end. Congratulations. The young man in the sports jacket, he too does a nice job. He's fun to visit with. He did a good job with kind of conversing with me about what the impact this has done for him over the year and how he's had to make some life decisions to make this work. He brings us a steer that's really nicely presented. He's just maybe not as comfortable in his showmanship skills, maybe not quite as sharp as a few of his classmates from the standpoint of getting those cattle set up as quickly or as straight in line. Congratulations to him. This young lady does a great job. She was your leader coming in the ring, so she had to set the stage, and she did a nice job with that. She come in, she's worked on her lines, got straight. Steer's just a little more comfortable when we come the second round, and she works through that, and I appreciate that. I just said if we ever bring one back, we talked a little bit about a couple fitting presentation things we'd do to move her up. Congratulations to her. And the young man here, he just made some really neat comments to me, as we work through the questions here. Surely enjoys this. He's done a nice job at this calf, getting him fed well. He's out here in stiff competition. The calf's just a touch nervous, and so they're maybe not shining as that partnership we're talking about, but he's worthy of a big round of applause, and we certainly wish him the best of luck here in the rest of the competition. Congratulations.
Your results from the first class of showmanship in your Catch It Calf program. 9th place from Julesburg, Colorado, Levi Reichman. 8th place from Berthoud, Colorado, Shannon Ramey. 7th place from Byers, Colorado, Preston Schneider. 6th place from Winona, Kansas, Grayson Collins. 5th place from Big Springs, Nebraska, Caden Rhodes. 4th place from Glenwood Springs, Colorado, Bridger Bear. 3rd place from Berthoud is Josie Smith. 2nd place from Castle Rock, Bryson McKim. And your class winner from Wellington, Colorado, Cade Schweitzer. Coming in the ring at this time is now class number 2 of our showmanship category with the Catch It Calf program. Class 2 consists of McKenna Beard from Brighton, Colorado. From Byers, Colorado, Johnny Rust. From Weldona, Colorado, Tinley Lorenzini. From Platteville, Colorado, Brody Gallivan. From Redvale, Colorado, Briley Butler. From Platteville, Colorado, Alexis York. From Crawford, Nebraska, Garrett Tolman. And from Canyon City, Colorado, Madison Daniels. Those are your exhibitors in class number 2. While our judges continue to work the show ring, want to highlight again some sponsors for the National Western. The show ring is well groomed, and it's done by none other than the Big Green Machine. John Deere. John Deere is the official agriculture and turf equipment provider of the National Western Stock Show. Visit your local John Deere dealer for great deals now and always. Remember, nothing runs like a deer. Another sponsor, the Colorado Farm Show. It is one of the largest and oldest farm shows in the nation, and the tradition continues January 28th, 29th, and 30th at the Island Grove Regional Park in Greeley, Colorado. You can come see the latest agriculture equipment with over 300 exhibitors. Attend free seminars with more than 60 engaging speakers and network to create long-lasting connections. For more information, go to coloradofarmshow.com.
go. Again, we spent a little more time here. This is a more challenging class for us, and I'm just going to keep referencing back to some of the conversations, how impressed we are with some of the other skills I know you're working on this program. And I just spent most of yesterday in an 8-hour leadership industry professionals conference, and the words that come out of that are heart and commitment and relationship and working together. And you hear that in every answer that we have out here in this conversation set with these young people, and I commend them for that. In this industry, what we're going to do in the next few years, it's going to change more rapidly than ever, and if you have those skills to visit with people and look them in the eye, I'm almost 100% positive you're going to be first when it comes to job interviews and success in those careers. Really close here. We enjoyed these two young people quite a bit. We like the young man to start with. It's the combination of his fit and presentation, his knowledge, just super competitive out here in that regard. The young lady, her story is interesting to me just because it's a little bit more like my background. She comes from an operation, hundreds of cattle, and she loves what she's learned from this whole thing about how the individual performance can affect things and how she may apply that in the future. Very nice show person out here, really gets the right kind of presentation, and we're proud to work with her as well. Good job. Young man coming next, really a competitive person. I could see that as he came in the ring. He's showing that calf off to the best of his abilities. We just talked about one little bit simpler thing that he could do to improve on the steer's presentation, and he's got one just a touch harder to show in terms of roundness of his back structure and his hip. We can work on that, improve that as he comes back in the combination, but very competitive individual. We really like his performance as well. Young lady in the teal, she's out in the blast out here. I guess I don't know her, but her parents and her friends know her. I think she enjoys this immensely. She has a good relationship with that calf. They get along really well in their teamwork. Once in a while, she maybe just got too invested in watching where we were at and let him slip out of line with those feet in terms of placement. Young lady that comes next, career goal, she wants to be a veterinarian. We need a lot of large animal veterinarians, so don't let go of that dream. Brings one that I think has a nice presentation and fit to the hair. She spent some time and prep from that. We really appreciate that. Don't lose sight of your aspirations. We really appreciate that. That calf was a little bunched up. He's a little bit short-bodied, and she needed to spread him out just a little bit in his leg placement to be more competitive amongst her peers. This young lady, the first question I asked her is how many hours of work on the white did she have to spend? And in this breed, white is something that if you don't take care of it, it obviously shows up. And so she knows the hours of commitment, and she talked about that and trying to keep him right. She really enjoys this project. We're going to just sharpen up her showmanship skills, and she's going to move up quicker in class. The young man brings us another one that is a good teammate. I think that in terms of experience, you get him a little bit further down the road, and he's going to be competitive. Definitely had a good conversation with him, and we're proud to work with him here in the ring. The young lady that's coming next, I think a special piece of her life's going on right now. She brings a calf she's done an extremely good job with, and we're going to talk about it later, but if you don't notice, this one hasn't been fed well. Livestock evaluation is not in your skill set. She's done a well put together job of that. They're obviously a team, and we really appreciate that she has a lot of trust. Those two have developed quite a relationship over the past year. Congratulations to your second class.
Your results for the second class of showmanship in your Catch It Calf program. 8th place, Alexis York. 7th place, Brody Gallivan. 6th place, Briley Butler. 5th place, Madison Daniels. 4th place, McKenna Beard. 3rd place, Johnny Rust. 2nd place, Tinley Lorenzini. And your class winner from Crawford, Nebraska, Garrett Tolman. Being ushered into the ring at this time is now class number 3. Class number 3 consists of entries from Blake Herrera of Lamar, Colorado. From Julesburg, Colorado, Caitlin Reichman. From Evansville, Colorado, Danica Eitzen. From Pavilion, Wyoming, Breland Davis. From Douglas, Wyoming, Guthrie Gates. From Burns, Wyoming, Cooper Sanchez. From Cheyenne, Wyoming, Anthony Quick. And rounding out the class from Kingsburg, Colorado is Sydney Dudley. This is class number 3 of showmanship for your Catch It Calf program. Once again, the National Western Stock Show is presented this year by a numerous slew of sponsors. Some of those sponsors include Saunders Construction. Saunders was locally founded in 1972 and now is one of the largest and most stable construction companies in the Centennial State. Saunders offers well-paid positions with opportunities for career growth. Visit www.saundersincorporated.com for information on career opportunities. Also, Weaver Livestock. Weaver Livestock is committed to helping you be the very best that you can be. Stop by their booth between the Junior Barn and Stadium Arena to check out their full line of show supplies backed by industry experts. Weaver is devoted to fueling your enthusiasm for showing livestock with innovative products at the National Western Stock Show. Another sponsor that we'll highlight while our judges are working through the ring is Les Schwab Tires. When you buy tires at Les Schwab, you're getting more than just tires. You're getting America's best tire warranty. Visit your local Les Schwab Tires today or book your appointment online at leschwab.com. Also, Andes. Andes is a proud sponsor of the National Western Stock Show. From clippers to education, Andes is here to support top-notch grooming and fitting for every single champion. Let's celebrate the best in livestock and clipping excellence. Andes, your clipping experts. Once again, we want to welcome everybody that is newcomers into the Stadium Arena. You're watching the National Western Stock Show's Catch It Calf program. A big welcome to those of you joining us online as well through the webcast via Show Barn Flicks, via Ringside Live,
Well, as I told several of these as I worked through the ring here with Steve, is this is a real competitive class, and you're in here working with some competitive people, real young leaders. And I talked about this conference yesterday, and we talked a lot about telling your story, and I'd be remiss if I didn't tell a story a little bit. This young man reminds me of a young lady I coached when I was a livestock judging coach, and she's gone on to be one of the most renowned young women to judge cattle shows, major steer shows, heifer shows, and we always struggled in the reasons room because she never looked like she was having fun. She was always so intense, and the desire to be in the purple, if you will. I mean, you could read it from the time she walked in the room until way after the awards breakfast. She never quit that wanting to win. But when you got her out in her natural state, she was a lot of fun to be around. And I hope this young man's that same way. I really like how intense he is. And we can't compliment him more on the preparation and what it takes to get one to look this great for showmanship, especially these Hereford cattle. I enjoy judging them because it's a little bit of a game for me, because you got to get away from the illusion of that extra white on them. And if you bring one that's not presented right in those colors, it can get real hard for a judge. But when you bring them presented like that, and then he strikes that picture pose every time he sets that steer down, and I'm just going to leave that with him and let him lead. But a really nice job. And then we go to two young men that are super professional. I mean, that hit me the first thing when they came in the ring is, I don't know if these guys are here to show steers or they're here to apply to be the CEO of the National Western Stock Show. And that's just the presentation I got when they walked in. They have that authority. They look for eye contact. They're seriously here to compete and show off their project, and I really appreciate that about them. And the two of them are really close in our mind. And we go to this young man next that's showing his steer with the white halter. I just think in completion of the task, he had as many good opportunities to show off his skills and the quality of his steer, and that's what allowed him to be right here in this placing. The next young man, I don't know his story, but I know enough about FFA and what it teaches you. And then if you roll this over into what happens in this program, I just know what kind of opportunities he has going forward. My wife was a state FFA officer and contended for a national office, and so those kind of skills are very evident in this young man. And then he brings a steer to us that he spent a good amount of time with, and they've got a nice relationship and a real good teamwork. And this intrigues me the most, this young lady. According to her story, she's never showed one, and I told her I never got to show one in here either. I worked in the yards and got cattle ready. I've had the fortunate opportunity to stand up here and judge cattle. I judged in judging contest here and brought kids here, but I've never shown one here, and she did a super job. You got in a tremendously competitive class, but look at the way that one's presented. She spent some time. She's got some mentorship. We really appreciate that. The young man here, he does a tremendous job, and he and I kind of talked about that competitive nature of his classmates, and I asked him a question about if he's ever been like in a state championship game or even a district's championship and what it felt like to be in there, and he really hadn't. I said, well, I think you can feel that in this moment. There's a couple kids in here that are of national quality or caliber, and relish in that. Look around and see what you can learn, and he does a super job. This young lady, I think she maybe grew as much in this project from what I get from her story about this. She had some trials and tribulations going through this project, but she overcome. She won she learned, and she's going to take away some of the most powerful life skills from this that she can have, and we appreciate that opportunity for her. Congratulations. The next young man that comes is, I probably like his story because it relates to me more. I grew up in a commercial calf operation. I didn't have a lot of exposure to what we're doing here today. I kind of didn't have appreciation, but I started to learn about it, and I started to love showing cattle and judging cattle, and I just came from a lot different background, and so he's a lot like that, and he's taken full hold of it here and in this project, and I wish him the best of luck going forward. The one thing I want to comment on this young lady is community. The first thing, or one of the first things I heard her say is she wants to give back and maybe sponsor one of these steers in the future, and that's hard to put how much I appreciate that answer into words. You know, this won't happen again unless you have people like her, and we appreciate how much work she's done and how much she's presented this animal to the best of her ability. Give them one big more round of applause. Thank you.
Your results coming out of class number 3, the final class of showmanship. 8th place, Caitlin Reichman. 7th place, Breland Davis. 6th place, Danica Itzen. 5th place, Guthrie Gates. 4th place, Sydney Dudley. 3rd place, Anthony Quick. 2nd place, Blake Herrera. And your class winner from Burns, Wyoming, Cooper Sanchez. Next up in our schedule for today for the Catch It Calf program will be the live placing phase of today's competition. There are 3 classes which have been divided by the weights of the calves. The average weight of the 25 steers was 1,213 pounds. The steers are all Hereford steers purchased from Day Ranch in Meadow, Texas. Once again, lining up these steers will be our judges, Mr. Steve Williams and Clint Sexton. They will be evaluating the steers for muscling, finish, and their structural soundness, which is different from the classes that we have just previously seen them place. These traits are economic, important to the beef cattle industry today. National Western Stock Show is providing premium monies and ribbons to the top steers in each of our classes. The class winners are receiving plaques sponsored by the Peebles family. In the ring is now class number 1 of our live placings. Within this class, we have the entries from Grayson Collins, sponsored by Hawkins Family, Brown and Jen Livesley, and the Flying Diamond Ranch. We have Bridger Bear, sponsored by Kenny Burns and Rex Emmons, the Colorado Elks Association. We have Guthrie Gates, sponsored by Mike and Eve Pugh. We have an entry from Madison Daniels, sponsored by Lauren Eccles, the Idaho Springs Elks, and Tom and Kathy Koslecki. We have Brody Gallivan, sponsored by Brett Marge Ginther, Peyton Huss, and Dylan Mortensen. We have Johnny Rust, which is sponsored by the National Western Stock Show's Volunteers. We have Levi Reckman, sponsored by the Kiwanis Club of Lakewood. And rounding out class number 1 is Blake Herrera, sponsored by Kent Vance and the Colorado Elks Association. The steers in this class have a weight range of 1,010 pounds to 1,156 pounds.
I would tell you in the fat cattle business, we're in one of the most interesting times we've ever been. And I don't care if you have gray hair sitting out here or your mom are showing. I never dreamt we'd have cattle at $2.05 today on live negotiated trade. And it speaks to the volumes, the kind of quality we get to deal with, and how important it is that we do a good job of feeding these cattle and allow them the opportunity to be profitable for us. And I know this project traces that, so I think it's important to talk about it out here. The steer we start off with is one that we think is the most market ready, and we say we think just because it's a projection. We got so many tools today to determine whether these cattle are going to grade well and what the yield grade goes to, that we use those in industry all the time. But here's one in the traits of Stockman, the things that we've always used to evaluate these fat steers. He has that finished look, and he has that maturity. He's deep down in his flank with that fat cover. He's smooth in his condition. And from a cattleman's perspective, we like his balance. He maintains even body depth and forerib back into his flank. We would pick on him a little bit. We'd like to level him up in that hook and pin structure. We'd like to make him set down with a more correct shape to that rear foot and heel. Just give him more drive and flex out of that rear end. I think this calf follows the most closely when we talk about market readiness. This calf's got a little bit stouter look to him right behind. He's a steer that's got the next most fat cover as we evaluate him with our hands, and we really appreciate the cover that he's carrying. He's a steer that has a nice square look to him in terms of muscle pattern down his top. He's square and more level than our previous steer out of his hip structure. He doesn't balance quite as well, and some of you maybe don't understand that as much as Steve and I do. We like to look at him from the side, and he just is tucked up a little tighter and higher in his flank. This dark cherry red steer, it just hits me as a cutability steer. You just see muscle expression in when he moves, right down his top through the center portion of his quarter. He's trimmer than he needs to be. For me, from a structural standpoint, I'd like to improve the way he goes off that hind leg. He has a little puffiness in his hocks. He wants to lay a lot more weight and proportion of his body on the outside toe of that rear foot. Calf with the white socks all the way around from the joints down. He's like the steer just ahead of him. He's more of a high cutability steer. He's got some bone work to him. He's got some shape to him as I evaluate him. When you get back from him on the side, he's a steer we'd like to see that more fat or feedability look. He's just not quite mature enough. He's not laying down enough fat cover into his flank to be real competitive from a finished steer standpoint. The steer that comes next, definitely one that's probably more finished than the next 4 or 3 in line. You can see that in his body depth indicators of his brisket back in towards his flank. Just from a muscle standpoint, we like to stouten that steer up. Excuse me. Thank you. We just like to stouten that steer up. Especially in that rear third, give him more base width, more stoutness of structure as he goes. Here's a steer this young man brought out in showmanship, and here he's a later maturing kind, and what I mean by that, he's got more frame size, he's long spined, he's a little bit stouter boned than some of these other steers, so I see the indicators. If we had another date for him, we could push him further on and get him fatter. For us, just the thing about him that concerns us with all the cattle we're involved in, there's not enough body depth in him. He needs to be deeper flanked, deeper in his heart and forerib, just have more of a feeding, doability kind of look from the side structure. The young lady steer that's the lightest in the class, and these two are not very many pounds apart, and I go back to this body type, why we use this steer next. He looks more like a fat steer, even though he doesn't have enough finish out here. Steer, but the steer's made well in terms of structure and movement. We'd like to put a shot more muscle in that steer when you study him behind. The young man that's going to follow her in class, here's a high cutability steer. Steer that's got more muscle expression when we compare him to his classmate that's just exiting the ring. Again, when we talk about feedability and body depth and ease of doing, this is a steer we'd like to improve that trait in him. Congratulations to this class. Give them a nice round of applause.
Your results for the first class of the live placings: 8th place, Bridger Bear. 7th place, Grayson Collins. 6th place, Johnny Rust. 5th place, Levi Reckman. 4th place, Guthrie Gates. 3rd place, Brody Gallivan. 2nd place, Madison Daniels. And your Class 1 winner is Blake Herrera. Coming in the ring at this time is now class number 2 of our live placings. Within class number 2, we have Sydney Dudley, sponsored by Pat and Kathy Shaw. We have Caden Rhodes, sponsored by G.H. Phipps Construction Company. We have Shannon Ramey, sponsored by none other than Mr. Dr. John Matsushima. We have Danica Itzen, sponsored by the DeBacker family. We have Anthony Quick, sponsored by Eric Anderson, the Wold Foundation, and Mark Moen, the Wyoming Elks. We have Josie Smith, sponsored by John and Sally Corkle and Tima McIntosh. We have Preston Schneider, sponsored by Tim Roberts and Broken Box Ranch, and Jeff Vogel of Vogel and Associates. We have Breland Davis, sponsored by Mike and Eve Pugh. And our last entry for class number 2 is Tinley Lorenzini, sponsored by Mark and Carolyn Neely. These are your entries for class number 2. We have a weight range on these steers of 1,169 pounds to 1,240 pounds.
We took a little more time here, and you can give him a nice round of applause. And I'd say Steve and I are both come from the seed stock side of the business and work with a lot of commercial guys on feeder cattle and have involvement in a lot of programs that finish cattle as well. And so we try to keep those traits in mind, and we end up with the steer that we think is the most fit in terms of a market animal, in terms of presentation of a market animal. And I'll give you the caveat, I wouldn't want one heifer on my place that has his feet structure. I'm just going to tell you that right up front. There's the thing I would change about him is just the way he's made on his feet. He actually has a little bit of swelling and puffiness in one hock. But let's step back from that and understand that this is a finished market animal and a steer that's got a lot of eye appeal. And that's a contribution this young man's showing him as well. He keeps that head up. He's presented him well. When you get your hands on him, he's a little uneven on one side, but he's real smooth on the other. He's finished. When you really study him for muscle content up in his upper hip, the expression of muscle when he gets out and moves, I think he's the dominant steer from that regard. And then you also see he's got some flank depth in him and eye appeal. And so we think that's a combination steer that we're going to go ahead and hang our hat on in this class. This is a steer that, and this is more the way we see cattle every day, out in the feedlot pens, out in the grass pastures, not with any clipping done. And if you're used to seeing clipped cattle, you probably won't appreciate this steer quite like we did. Here's a steer with a lot of functionality. He's kind of a big-footed, wide-structured, big-bodied steer that's been finished well. And you get your hands on him, there's some muscle content in him. If we clipped him, he would look different out here. He's maybe not quite as expressively muscled as our class winner. Probably doesn't have that quarter and stifle shape, overall power or muscle there, but that's a good calf. One of our class favorites is this light-colored steer. Just a great eye appeal when you study him on the side. If you like strength of lines, levelness of hip structure, boldness in that upper hip, eye appeal, I think you got to buy into this calf. If he was in the last class, I'll just throw that out there, he would probably win the last class hands down. So he gets in the lightest part of this class, and that's part of the reason he ends up third. He's still a little bit shallower. He could use some market finish in that rear rib and flank. And as he goes away, he tends to narrow up in that muscle structure, especially as comparing to that class. Young man in the sports jacket, I really like this steer in terms of his cutability and his profile. Tremendous amount of muscle shape. You see his forearm working in him, expression in his stifle. He's a carcass kind of yield steer, in my opinion. He's got that shape. He's probably a touch greener. And from a profile standpoint, it's just a little bit rounder made. When you study him in his muscle content down low in his stifle, he's not as stout as some of the other steers in class. If we're just coming down an alley and sorting fat cattle, shipping them off to the harvest plant, this calf goes in your every time. If you're just looking at market finish, depth of body, finish through that brisket and flank, this is the steer that does that the best in this class. Just does a tremendous job there. He's one that's probably not going to dress quite as well. He's got a lot of center and fill in him. For as wide as he looks, there's maybe not as much muscle content there as we discuss some of these other cattle. The next four steers, there's a lot of differences in type, up and down. We talked about cutability in other steers, and that would be the advantage of this steer. He's moderate sized. You can see his muscle pattern working in his forearm, his jump muscle. For us, in terms of type and kind and future growth, he's one of them that's just more moderate, small. We'd like to set him square, his feet up front. He tends to toe out there. From a feedlot perspective, he's just a little tight in that rear rib and flank. The young lady brings this steer that has more of the market look. that we're talking about. He's got more depth, a 4-ribbon flank, sound structured steer, kind of an eye-appealing steer on the side. Just from a cutability and muscle standpoint, we'd like to see him more competitive. Thank you. Then you bring in a pair of steers and they can come together. Steers that have more frame, length of body. If you're going to give them more days, and I understand they've been fed 240, so they probably shouldn't feed them any more days. But for that extra frame size, they're just short on terms of condition and market readiness. Their cattle are just a little bit raw, boned. So we get real concerned about them from the standpoint of quality grade as you evaluate them. Just more muscle content in the young man's steer. Really love the presentation of the young lady steer. Give them a nice round of applause and congratulations.
Your results coming out of class number 2 of your live placings. 9th place, Tinley Lorenzini. 8th place, Breland Davis. 7th place, Shannon Ramey. 6th place, Caden Rhodes. 5th place, Josie Smith. 4th place, Preston Schneider. 3rd place, Sydney Dudley. 2nd place, Danica Itzen. And your class winner, Anthony Quick. Coming into the ring at this time is now class number 3 of our live placings. This is the final class. Within class number 3, we have entries from Caitlin Reckman, sponsored by Mark Arndt and the Colorado Elks Association. Bryson McKim, sponsored by Ben Duke, Denver Ag and Livestock Club, and Miss Sue Anschutz Rogers. We have entry from McKenna Beard, sponsored by Leslie Baldwin and the Betcher Foundation of Denver. Cade Schweitzer sponsors Don Cindy Fredrickson and Dick and Sharon Lynch. We have Briley Butler, sponsored by Ronald Carpenter and Bruce Schmart of the Colorado Elks. We have an entry from Cooper Sanchez, sponsored Joe Adams. We have entry Garrett Tolman, sponsor of J&K Anderstrom. And lastly, we have Alexis York, sponsored by the Weichman family and Vineyard family. These are the entries for your final class 3 of your live placings within the National Western Stock Show's Catch It Calf program. The steers within this class have a weight range of 1,255 pounds to 1,507 pounds. We will mention this as well. The 2 calves will be announced as the overall Grand and Reserve Grand Champion National Western Stock Show Catch It Calves at tomorrow's awards breakfast. And then they will be qualified for the National Western Stock Show's auction of the Junior Livestock Champions held on Friday, January 24th. The 2 calves selected will be designated as Grand Champion and Reserve Grand Champion Catch It Calves. And they will be selected by using a point system, which includes scores on record books, their sponsor relations, an interview process, the production of the animal, live placing, showmanship, and deadlines met with a possible score of a total of 160 points.
Okay, I want to start out and thank you for the opportunity to allow Steve and I and his wife to work together with you today. And I think we've probably been on a committee together 4 or 5 times in the last decade, and I really enjoy working with Steve's expertise. He and his wife have the Midland Bull Test, and we really didn't know each other till about 5 or 6 years ago, and so we've got to do this together a few times, and we really respect each other's opinion. Amazing class here, and not to take anything away from the other classes we've judged before, but I assume we're ending here for our responsibilities. Let's give these young people a big round of applause. So we spent a little bit of time here with these last 4, and we see a lot of quality in them. Some real strong positive attributes in everyone. But as we think about what we're trying to do in the industry and what's most important in that market animal, I think this young man's steer, the young man showing with the black hat, needs to come to the top of this class. He's a steer that just does a lot of the right things at a near industry standard in terms of market weight. You just have to be attracted to the fact that he's muscular, he's got some frame size, which that doesn't always fit every part of the country, but we got to have some frame size to get these cattle heavy. And when you get on him and put your hands on him, he handles very well. He's very smooth and even. He's got enough finish. If we could ask him to go further, he can handle it. And yet again, you study his muscle pattern up high in his hip structure through the center portion of his stifle and quarter and his base width. And I just think he comes together to balance the best. And one of the key things that I kind of like about him is the front third. We don't eat much of that, but when we take pictures, we like him to be up-headed and cleaning that neck and throat. And he does that better than the next 2 steers. This is an interesting way we do this. We judge showmanship. This was probably my pick earlier this morning. This calf, I noticed him right away when he first comes in the ring. He's 180 pounds lighter or something than the steer we win this class with. But this one is finished. He's big-bodied. He's rugged. He has a durable appearance, and he really moves out on the ground, covers his stride. He just is athletic, and you've got to be attracted to that. And especially, as I mentioned before, cow guys or seed stock guys, we appreciate his kind. For me, he's done. He's super moderate. If I was going to compare him to our class winner, he wants to get ever so weak right down in his loin. He comes up just a little bit in his tail head. He doesn't have as much muscle expression in that stifle. This steer next he's one of my favorites. When you just take a step back and study, if we turn him loose, he has that boldness of rib cage, that expression of muscle down his top, that expression in his forearm, and there's a market-ready steer there when you get your hands on him, yet he's still trim and has some cutability. When we look at him, especially to this class winner and the steer we're going to talk about next, he doesn't have that class or eye appeal from the side. He's a little bit rounder in his hip structure, a little bolder, a little shorter in his neck. He's carrying some extra fat right up through his jawline. This doesn't as attractive. Now, if we're just going to take a 2-dimensional picture, this is my steer right here. From a 2-dimensional standpoint, this is as good a looking steer as there is in the barn. A really long spined, up-headed, proud, level-hipped, big-boned, sound-structured steer. If you compare him to your class winner, that steer is over 100 pounds lighter. And it's just because he doesn't have as much muscle content right down his back. He doesn't have that center expression to that stifle and quarter. He doesn't have that base whip. But there's one, if we get him on the side view and that backdrop, he's easy to get a picture of. This guy is the one that's done. As I asked the young lady, I asked her what the industry standard was for finished live weight. And this steer is as close as it comes. I think the overall 2024 average live weight of fat cattle was 1,497 pounds. And that's what you got right here. A finished steer that we would sort on the truck every time, and he would satisfy our eye. He's done his job. We compare him to cattle that are ahead of him. There's just not as much eye appeal. There's not as much muscle content in this calf as I compare him to, especially a couple of them. Thank you. Good job. Another steer that I call foundationally right. He's a lot like the third place steer, just bold made, lots of muscle shape, good turn to his rib. He's finished, just a little bit rounder made on both ends of that skeletal design. Really a steer that's really practical and functional, gets in a tough class. There's some bone work and performance there. Then you get to a pair of steers that if they'd been in the last class, they'd probably been more up towards the front maybe, just because of their weight. Real eye-appealing, deep-sided, finished steer here. Just not enough muscle content right up over his rib cage. Thank you. And just not as powerful, but just very attractive, easy-moving kind of steer. And then the young lady brings us one that was the lightest in this class. And again, functionality comes to mind, feedability. He's just done his job. He lands in a very competitive class. Give him one more round of applause. And again, we'd express our gratitude for allowing us to come. Thank you.
Your results coming out of class number 3 of your live placings. 8th place is Caitlin Reckman. 7th place, McKenna Beard. 6th place, Briley Butler. 5th place, Alexis York. 4th place, Cooper Sanchez. 3rd place, Cade Schweitzer. 2nd place, Bryson McKim. And your class winner, Garrett Tolman. At this time, our class number 3 will take their animals to their stalls, I believe, after pictures are done. And then we will have group pictures at the backdrops. So if you have your sponsors as well as your exhibitors themselves meet at the backdrop for a big, giant group picture. This will be concluding the 2025 National Western Stock Show's Catch It Calf Show. The overall Grand and Reserve Grand Champions, along with multiple other awards, will be announced tomorrow at the Catch It Calf Awards Breakfast. Thank you to everyone attending today's show, and we'll see you back here in a few hours for our next show. The next show in the ring will be the Miniature Hereford Junior Show starting at 2, as well as our Gelby Junior Show. We will have dual rings going at that time, so 2 p.m. is the next activity here in the stadium.